the arena of competition is so much fun, but at times it challenges your value system of how you see the situation, how you see yourself as a person. And so I basically thought, when Clark Kent is working in the newsroom, he's a completely different person than Superman. But it's an almost like yeah, there's a costume that goes on, much like my costume, and then there's a suit and a tie that he wears when he's in the newsroom. And I thought to myself, okay, that just becomes a mindset that when you're in this environment, this is your environment, and then you leave it. And I started thinking myself almost like a dimmer switch where, how do you become white hot inside of competition but then be able to dim it down? And, how do you become like relentless and competitive and driven, but yet then there's a break off moment where you say, okay, now I'm a mentor, I'm a listener, I'm empathetic. They're two different arenas. And so I think it was just becoming more intentional with my thought process. And then you'd say to yourself, okay, well, if you're doing that, then you're probably becoming less authentic. No, I think you're becoming more authentic because I think you're becoming more intentional in your thoughts about what you want to do. And for me, it really was putting more thought into that and how I wanted to separate those moments of being Clark Kent versus Superman. The coach with a uniform on. It's over with. You took off the uniform. And for me, I live a very like structured life. I mean, when I get in the morning, it's the first thing I do is put on my baseball pants because it's almost like that's my cape. That's what I do. It doesn't matter the day. Today's an off day, but I've got my baseball pants on, I've got my turf shoes on, and I've got my sweatshirt. We won't train, but it's who I am at this moment. And then when I take the shower at the end of the night in the office and put on my jacket and my jeans, I'm no longer the coach. Now I would tell you that what we talk about, Maggie and I, is coaching and teaching and baseball. That's kind of our lifestyle, besides the girls and our grandkids. But it's really creating more of an authentic, intentional feel for what you're doing, and there's a door that's closed once the events are over.
Yeah, I love that. Doing it on purpose with purpose. When we talk about this idea of coach process over outcome, it's become very popular now. People really understand it. Nick Saban really put it on the map. I mean, a bunch of coaches talk about this idea of process over outcome. And it seems like, from my experience talking to coaches, the ones that really get it are the people that have been in the game a long time. Jim Schlossnagle, yourself, people that have been coaching a while, they now look at it like, hey, this is what I've learned. But they also say, and I've heard you say too in other podcasts, it took me a while to figure it out. Or I can say that now. I had a hard time when I was younger because it was all about the wins and the losses. So I'd be remiss to ask you, how can we help the younger coaches maybe catch a lesson 10 years earlier than they could have? Is it, hey, you just need experience, you'll get there at some point? Or can we help some of these coaches at a younger age who find themselves obsessed with the wins and the accolades? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, experience certainly helps that. I mean, I do. I think, as a young coach, I see younger coaches, and sometimes I'll look at them and there's an annoyance level of how they go about their business. And, I'm not a judgmental person, but I look at and then I stop myself and go, but you were that person. And so you stop short of, okay, he's going to at some certain point in time turn that corner of, what does matter. I think that the thing I heard Simon Sinek a long time ago when he started talking about the infinite game versus the finite game. And then it started making a little bit more sense to me when he started talking about it in a business model, in a business fashion. It started making more sense to me from a coaching standpoint, what that looked like. And the scoreboard's an outcome, and it's important, obviously, but it's finite. When the game is over, there's a winner and there's a loser. And the reality is there's 300 teams that play in Division I baseball, and only one's going to win. So if you don't win, do you look back at your year as being a complete failure?